Hello guys, it's the Faceless Beanie and welcome to another weapon build guide for one of my favorite shotguns in Warframe, the Arca Plasmor. I'll be showing you a simple guide that almost any player can use and benefit from. I won't be using any Rivens to make it as accessible as possible to new players, so without further ado, let's jump right into it. The Arca Plasmor is a plasma shotgun that you can get at your clan's dojo's energy lab. It comes with high radiation damage as well as a guaranteed impact damage proc. The Arca Plasmor shines when dealing with large groups of enemies due to its innate punch through. You'll want to stay close to enemies with this weapon as damage starts to fall off quickly from about 10 meters away. The Arca Plasmor has lower base damage than some of its counterparts, but makes up for it in many other ways. Let's look at the good and the bad of the Arca Plasmor. Let's start with the good. The Arca Plasmor has high status and critical chances, making it a great weapon to build as a hybrid. It's got a pretty low mastery rank requirement of mastery rank 10, making it pretty accessible to most newer players. Its innate radiation and punch through make it a fantastic weapon to use even without proper modding. And finally, it has a high accuracy, which is fantastic for a shotgun. It doesn't require too much skill to handle either. Now let's move on to the disadvantages of the Arca Plasmor. It's got a pretty slow reload speed that can leave you vulnerable in battle. It has a low critical damage multiplier, which needs significant modding to be made viable. You won't be getting any bonus damage on headshots despite the great accuracy of the weapon. And finally, it's got a low fire rate that can put you in some sticky situations when you're out there in battle. So let's get to the build. This is a pretty easy build that requires just one forma with a Madurai polarity. So we start with Hell's Chamber. Multi-shot is essential for the Arca Plasmor, especially if you want to make use of its high status chance. Multi-shot will allow you to fully make use of the Arca Plasmor's ability to take out large groups of enemies quickly. It also increases overall damage as well as status damage. It's a must-have mod. Point Blank needs no explanation. Raw damage boost that is a no-brainer in almost any build. The primed version will work even better, but keep in mind you'll have to add another forma for that. Ravage boosts the critical damage of the Arca Plasmor. Critical damage is especially important with this weapon as it is pretty accurate, allowing you to get more successful critical hits on enemies, and you'll want those hits to be doing decent damage. This mod works wonders in that department. Again, the primed version will require an added forma. Blunderbuss increases the critical chance of the weapon and works perfectly with Ravage to bring out the critical capabilities of the Arca Plasmor. As previously mentioned, critical damage is one of the main reasons for using the Arca Plasmor, and you'll want to make sure you're getting enough critical hits to make it count. This mod helps with exactly that. Moving on to Vicious Spread, a raw damage boost which will help with the overall damage capabilities of the weapon, just like Point Blank, but with a minor setback in that accuracy will be slightly distorted. This can be controlled by ensuring you keep a close distance to your enemies, and naturally with a shotgun, you shouldn't be expecting to snipe enemies from afar. So realistically, spread won't worsen your experience too much. Vigilante Armaments is a multi-shot boost on top of Hell's Chamber. This one is mainly for the status. You'll want as much plasma coming out of the weapon as possible to help with the status damage provided by the next two mods, and multi-shot in general increases overall damage. I've tested some other mods in this slot, and Vigilante Armaments always ends up on top. Finally, let's move on to the two status mods. Shell Shock and Toxic Barrage are my picks, both giving 60% status chance and 60% electricity and toxin damage respectively. There's a few other status mods that you may choose to replace these with, but I found that this combination works the best in most circumstances. Shell Shock will boost radiation damage as well, and when you combine it with the toxin from Toxic Barrage, you get the much desired corrosive damage which melts through most Grineer enemies. This makes it significantly easier to take down heavy gunners, as I'll show you in a moment. Time to test this out. So the great part about this weapon, as mentioned earlier, is its punch through. You may take longer to kill one enemy as compared to other shotguns, but remember your damage is going through enemies. This is going to enable you to take down larger groups of enemies quicker. This build tends to work well in the void as well. You'll be facing no problems taking down enemies quickly. With this build, I saw a small problem when dealing with infested enemies in particular. If you're gonna take this on an infested mission, then you'll want to replace vigilante armaments with blaze. The decrease in multi-shot will affect the overall status of the weapon, but you'll get some heat damage in there, which greatly helps out against infested enemies. Blaze also works really well with shell shock to further boost the radiation damage on the Arca Plasmor. It almost feels like a natural fit for the weapon. And here you'll see the difference Blaze makes. Another replacement you can put in is Chilling Reload, and you'll put it in place of Toxic Barrage. The cold damage pairs really well with Shell Shock to produce magnetic damage, which is great against Corpus enemies. This mod also importantly helps with lowering the reload speed down to 2 seconds, so it's going to give you a better time out there in battle. However, you're going to struggle with Grenier naturally as you have no toxic damage anymore, so it's recommended to just leave Toxic Barrage on there as it's more useful in most circumstances. But of course, if you're just going to go in and kill Corpus enemies, Chilling Reload will work pretty well. So that about does it. Thank you so much for watching this build guide / weapon review of the Arca Plasmor. A simple build that most players will be able to use. Remember, if you want to use the primed versions of Ravage and Point Blank, you'll have to add another Forma. Please let me know of any changes you would make to the build or any other build ideas that you may have. I'm always willing to learn. And with that, I do hope this helped you out. This is the Faceless Beanie signing out. Take care, guys.